Humans tend to find safety in the black and white, in what's easily deemed right versus wrong. But while it's indisputable that Hamas perpetrated a heinous terrorist attack on civilians, the Israeli response and the context of the overall situation in Israel and the occupied territories in Palestine, some 70 years of difficult history, have complexities that aren't as easy to categorize into neat boxes. Hamas doesn't represent all Palestinians or even all Gazans, and there are many Arab Americans who have expressed empathy for the Israeli hostages kidnapped and those who were killed in the October 7 attack. And the Israeli government doesn't represent all Jews around the world or even in Israel. And there are plenty of Jewish people in Israel and the U.S. who are expressing empathy for Palestinians in Gaza. In fact, there have been groups of Jewish Americans demanding a ceasefire, protesting at both the White House and the Capitol this week, with hundreds arrested. I'm joined now by Stephani Fox, the executive director of Jewish Voice for Peace, one of the Jewish groups that organized the protests. And so thank you so much for being here, Stephani. I saw those protests, and it was very heartwarming to see just human consideration and care. What prompted your organization to do those protests?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Joy. This week we brought together 5,000 Jews in a massive demonstration demanding Joe Biden and other American lawmakers tell Israel to implement a ceasefire right now. We believe this is the largest demonstration in history of Jews in solidarity with Palestinians. We were led by 25 rabbis in a massive civil disobedience where about 500 people staged a sit-in, you're seeing there. And we did this while meanwhile the Israeli military is raining down bombs on Palestinians in Gaza, the 2 million Palestinians trapped by land, sea, and water, and air, there's no food, there's no electricity, there's no fuel. People are rationing food, drinking seawater. People are trapped under the rubble. Hospitals are out of electricity and whole families are being wiped off of the population registry because every single member, every generation has been killed. We see beloved Palestinian friends and colleagues in Gaza tweeting with their last few moments of battery life on their phones in English about what's going on because they understand that we in the U.S. have the power to stop this. It's our government that is pouring billions of dollars into what we really understand as a genocidal war on Palestinians being done with our tax dollars as a Jewish community in our names. And so we showed up to say, no, not in our names, not with our tax dollars. We refuse this. And
it's interesting. I don't know if you want to comment on Marjorie Taylor Greene calling your protest an insurrection, but I noted that 300 of your members were arrested that day. That is a very negative context, comparison to the actual insurrection when people were allowed to go home. What do you make of the fact that peace activists were arrested when people who were storming the Capitol were allowed to go home?
Well, it says a lot about the values of the U.S. government, right? That, Jewish Americans showing up to say, absolutely not in our names, demanding a ceasefire now and demanding an end to the root cause of violence for all people there and ending 75 years of oppression of Palestinians. But really primarily in that space saying ceasefire now that, hundreds and hundreds of us were hauled out by Capitol Police says a lot about where the U.S. government's support goes.
Let's talk about, there are some progressive Jewish folks in this country who say they feel abandoned by the left, that they don't feel supported, that they're, Jewish people still are the number one targets of hate crimes. What do you make of that, of people's feeling that there isn't as much support for Jewish folks who are also scared and grieving?
Joy, I was raised to understand the core Jewish value of B'Tselem Elohim, which means every single life is precious. All human beings are made in the image of the divine, and every single life is worth an entire universe. And I was also I think about the core lesson that my great grandma Belle, may her memory be a blessing, taught me, which was that the thing we must learn from the Holocaust is that the world let it happen. And to me, being Jewish in the core of me means that there is no such thing as being a bystander in moments of historic injustice, mass atrocity. Like, there's nowhere else that Jews would be than a fight to end genocide. It's inconceivable, you know.
Stephani Fox, you are awesome. We didn't do Who Won the Week this week because of all that's going on, but my sister, you won the week. You're fantastic. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.